I'm like, let me just figure out what I'm doing wrong. Okay, it must be me. I'm limiting myself from something.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Life Choices Podcast.
Yeah!
We wanted to talk about, because we know each other a little bit, and I know that like things in your life have kind of like switched around over the past year since the last time we sat down and talked on the podcast. Wanted to talk about how does one get out of a negative environment to put themselves into a more positive environment in order to help themselves become more successful? And that's whether it's work related or personal, mental, physical, all of that kind of together in one situation.
Last year, or the last 3 years, I've been living with my mom, and I felt like in 2024 was the year that I realized that I was being hindered from my success due to my environment.
Okay.
And I just working, doing whatever I normally do, kicking butt. You know, I have my son, I have my little family, and everything just was negative and not the right environment for me, because I'm always wanting to thrive at my full potential. I didn't realize that I could be hindering me from my success due to the negative environment. In order for anybody to thrive or level up in life, they need to surround themselves with a positive environment.
Right. The positive energy.
Positive energy.
Not just the individuals that you associate with, but your living space.
Absolutely.
Where you hang out.
Absolutely.
All things that surround you at any given time in a day. If you want to thrive, as you're saying, you need to have positivity around you.
Absolutely.
So at what point did you notice that your forward progression wasn't happening, and therefore realize that it was your environment that was causing it?
I was receiving opportunities, but slowly. I was not feeling like I was getting the opportunities that I deserved. I'm a good person. I'm a woman of God. I'm a woman of faith. I pray. And I felt like I was very stagnant. There was like a stagnation, and I felt like I was plateauing, and everything I did, I couldn't get up to the next level. And by the third year, I was like, okay, let me change something within me. Let me release self-limiting beliefs that are hindering me from my success.
I believe that is an essential piece of knowledge that people need, is that if you want change in your life, you have to change something in your life.
Absolutely.
And that's the only way you're going to get the result that you want. Now, it's interesting because you're saying this was a span of 3 years that you were living, you were paying bills, you have your son,
yep.
You had a place to live. Like life wasn't horrible,
no.
But life was just the same every single day, month, week, year for 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then you notice that, okay, hold on a second. Let me look inside.
Yes.
What is going on in here that's preventing me?
Yes.
And this is where you realize that part of it was your environment and part of it was you?
Yes, me.
Okay.
I was doing so many reflections. I was doing reflections every month, every moon. We get a new moon, we get a full moon every month. I was reflecting on the 30 days before on myself. Like, what did I do wrong? Could I do better? Could I be better? I know I could do better. I know I'm only thriving at 75% because that's all I could thrive, but my mind is thriving at 120. Mm-hmm. Always. But just being around negativity, lower vibrations, different levels of perception.
Now, were you, because you're a high energy person,
yes,
lot going on inside constantly. I feel like there's 7 hamsters on a wheel, maybe, because that's where you're thriving, but the exterior is what you're saying.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So do you think that, were you possibly part of that negative environment or negative energy?
No.
No, not at all.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm the light.
Okay.
I show people how to be the light.
So in essence, no matter what happens to you, no matter that there's, I'm going to forget his name now. There's a psychologist, which is quite, Pitt Patterson.
Okay.
You know Patterson? He's on social media a lot. So
Probably
he has a bit on TikTok. I think I saw it where he says, no matter what injustices I feel have been done to me, no matter what negativity comes my way, no matter how harsh someone is to me, no matter how mean, so no matter what, I'm going to do good. And that's how you live your life.
That's how I've always lived my life. I'm kind. I'm caring. I'm compassionate. I've told my son that every day when I took him to school, when I left him since he was in preschool. Kind, caring, and compassionate. People are mean. But
Humans are horrible.
And it's not their fault.
Right.
I don't blame it on them. I have forgiven every single person who has done me wrong. I have prayed for every single person who has done me wrong. I wish everybody well that has done me wrong. I forgive because it's for me. It's for nobody else.
I have gone through the process of forgiving those without talking to them, just speaking out loud and forgiving people for anything but I take accountability. Even if I don't know what that accountability is in that situation, I also forgive myself or apologize to them auto-suggestedly so that I know I can release that energy, that information.
Yes.
Which part of accountability did you take then when you realized that your environment was a big reason why the positive energy that you send out regularly wasn't coming back tenfold as we believe it should if we're doing good all the time?
I had no choice. That was my only place to live for me and my son and my dog Charlotte. So I put up with a lot. I was beaten down. I was ridiculed. I was casted out of the heavens above. I was treated like complete garbage and trash, and I had no choice but to stay because that's where I had to live for the moment.
I'm going. Speaking of the past, I'm going to give an outside opinion about it because a lot of people might be watching this and feel the same way about their current situation. Is we always have a choice.
Absolutely.
It might not be what we think is possible or successful, but there is always an option. Now I get it. Everyone has different situations. You have a child still have a child, obviously. So that puts a level of stress on an individual I also have to take care of this person. It's not a matter of let's say a single 20-year-old boy who can go get a bartending job and okay, no problem, I'll go sleep on a friend's couch for a bit. But there's always an option. There is always something, a smaller place to live, or maybe, God willing, a friend has a room that you and the child could live in. There's always a choice. It's just, I think, hard when we get a lot of negativity thrown at us that we start believing some of it.
I'm going to piggyback off that.
Okay.
There was a role, a reason, and a purpose that I was still there. My mother, I feel that I was still there to help her heal. Now, I mean, I did have a choice to leave, but I was comfortable. I did not want to interrupt, my son's school and everything he's doing. I didn't want to interrupt everything I was doing, but when I was given the opportunity, then that's when everything started changing.
And what was that opportunity?
It was an opportunity to get my own place, to move out, to go on my own, to finally have my independence as a 42-year-old woman. I've never had independence living on my own, and I was not given the right opportunity. I feel like it wasn't the right timeline, but I knew when it was going to happen. I don't know if I'm really supposed to go into like things the reason why I left. I was kind of like, I was pushed out by the universe, forced out for the universe for my own good. And then the cord was finally removed. And now here I am with my own place, starting fresh for the first time ever.
Vibrating on a higher energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting how the way you phrase that is most people are not able to see in the situation that it's a good thing that it's happening to them, a negative thing, such as being forced out, being pushed out. Most people would break down more and look at it in a negative, like a poor me situation.
I've been through it twice.
Okay.
What, 3 years prior to this 3 years from somebody else that I was with, relationship wise.
And you were living with that person.
I was living with that person.
Right. So it's interesting to me, 42 years, you're 42 now, and this is the first time you've not lived with anybody else. Now that means going from your parents' homes, either or together, to relationships and moving right into those individuals' homes, and then going back to a parent's house.
Yes.
And now,
yes.
And not alone because you have a child.
Yes, exactly.
So it is your own independence as a single mom, but never did you experience living by yourself.
No, I'm living by myself. My son's with my ex in Arizona going to school right now, so I am by myself.
Okay.
I am.
So completely by yourself.
Completely by myself.
And
right
so the
now.
new environment is obviously putting you in a much happier state of mind.
Happier state of mind. I never lived by myself before, so I was a little nervous.
Yeah, as I'm
That's
sure.
normal, right?
I don't know. I can't say.
Right.
For me,
Right.
I had been on my own. I mean, I lived with my brothers when I moved out of my parents' house, but I want to say by the time I was about 22, 23, I had already gotten my own place and then lived by myself multiple times. Rarely did I go back to having a roommate. Even once I got into the yachting industry, when I moved out first, I had a roommate, and then I moved out on my own for 3 years. And then, creating a business, I then downsized because financial reasons. And that's why, I've lived with the same person whenever I'm in the country for the past 4 years.
So I've always moved in with somebody.
Well, I hope, and when I asked off screen, I'm actually glad now that I have this information that you didn't now move in with your current boyfriend, because I think it's an important part in life for someone to live on their own and feel all of the ups and downs from what that is,
Absolutely.
because there's a lot of like regular everyday stress, the cable bill, or that's how old I am, the Wi-Fi bill, the Wi-Fi bill, the electric, the heat, like whatever, all of those things, the rent, like this is now like solely on your responsibility. And therefore you have to make sure there's a certain list that gets done all the time.
Yes.
But then there's also the freedom of having your own space, and the wonderful, for someone like myself who thoroughly enjoys solitude, the amount of reflection time that I get, which for me personally, and I think this is for most people if they tried it, the more time you spend reflecting on your daily activities, the better you're going to become as a healthier individual.
Of course.
So going back to the original question then, when someone is going along life like this, and it may be because of their environment, what would be a couple of signs, do you think, now that you've done it, that would kind of like let you know, okay, wait a second, I'm kind of living in a negative environment, not necessarily just like where you're living,
Right.
but like all of your surroundings kind of on a daily basis is negative. And what are some things that you might be able to share with people that would be like, hey, listen, if you're seeing this, or if this is happening, keep an eye out for this, because those might be signs that you're living in a negative environment. And once you see that, you can then do this, this, and this.
Okay, so basically you have, let me see how many states of conscious you have: 2D, 3D, 4D, 5D, and up. So I'm operating at 5D consciousness and awareness. Now, the person I was living with is in 3D. Their level of perception, most of the time, we're not going to see eye to eye. The way they perceive things, the way they think about things, they're always talking about the past, relaying to this, or just, it's a vibration. I'm trying to think of a sign that would just constantly judging people, or just being judging people.
You mean you yourself judging people?
No, like if you see someone like constantly complaining or constantly judging people or constantly complaining,
So people that you associate with regularly, if they are of conversations of drama,
yes,
constantly talking about other people's
stuff,
and being judgmental,
yes,
and or using verbiage that seems to be on the negative side,
yes,
not necessarily they're negative people,
correct,
but they use negative connotations when they're talking.
Yes,
that's a sign that your environment is negative.
Absolutely. Okay, as the human species, we are the only species that can make a choice. We're not on the food chain where we have to hunt, where we're like in the survival mode.
Yeah, no, we just call Uber.
So we are the only species that gets to make a choice, whether it's the right or the wrong choice. My mother, for example, she's still living in her own world. She has made all of the choices in her life to get her to where she is now. She blames everybody for her bad choices. I was a punching bag for 3 years.
You allowed yourself to be a punching bag. Talking about choice, you chose to allow yourself to be that person.
I chose to allow myself to be a punching bag. I didn't do it. I don't feel like I did it on purpose. You
weren't necessarily conscious of the fact that you were doing it. Right. I can parallel. I chose without knowing to be a certain individual at a young age to my father until I was about 17, which my dad, myself, and my mom were all in the room. We were the only ones in the house, actually. And I confronted the situation. Like, I got mad, I got angry, I got upset, I cried, and I expressed to my father everything that I felt, the way he was treating me. Now understand, I'm a 17-year-old boy,
exactly,
interpreting life as much as I knew it, which was not much. But I made that choice to let it all out for the first time. And that choice allowed the relationship to completely change. And I was only at home for another 2 years, and then I moved out, and the relationship got even better.
I feel like time heals all wounds, and I know at a certain point my mom and I will become friends again. It was a choice to stay there, but I love my mom. I love my son. I love my stepfather. I feel like at some level I was still in a comfort, if that makes sense.
Well, and it absolutely does, because most of us rather not leave our comfort zone. We talk about that all the time. Most people don't want to leave their comfort zone, but then are upset with the cards they've been dealt.
And I knew the cards I was dealt. I knew that I could have made better choices. This is the year 2025 breaks down to the number 9. 9 in numerology is completion. So everything is coming to completion this year. I have a chance to not make any of the mistakes that I've made in the last 3 years.
You have a chance to learn from your mistakes,
yes,
and do better this year.
I have a chance to learn from my mistakes and do better this year in 2025. Absolutely. I have had so many learning curves. I did ask a lot. Well, let me take that back. I know when I have certainty in the light of the Creator. It's just my mind got tripped up a couple times where I was asking why and how. But if you don't worry about the details, the universe just takes care of you.
One thing that I've learned for sure, one thing is absolute, is more times than not, you're never going to know why.
Exactly.
And like you said earlier, like how you're able to be okay when the bad stuff happens, knowing that it's happening for a reason, and knowing that you may not know why that is happening, is where I believe I get my strength, because I do get wrapped up in it. Like when a situation happens that you didn't expect, or a situation you didn't want happens, we as humans react a certain way. But the more you practice to be conscious of your reactions, helps you get better at it, so that you are okay with the bad things happening. And when you get to that point where you're able to say, oh fuck, this is happening, it's okay though. A day from now, a month from now, it's all going to be okay.
Well, that's the thing. We have to learn how to regulate our emotions, and the human experience is a very emotional one. I cry. I know how it feels to cry. I've cried a lot, but it releases a hormone that you need. It's not good to hold it in. You hold it in and then pop off, and then it's like a
Other bad things can happen.
Exactly.
As men, we're told not to, and even nowadays with all the social media, you have the two sides of,
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of like, I'm on both sides of it, because I do believe, you got to be strong to a point, and you got to take care of your house and home. But at the same time, I admit quite often that, like, if I have that emotion, if I feel it, I'm very empathetic, I guess you could say, because
You feel the emotion.
I feel the emotion, but I feel other people's emotions. So when I absorb it, or I allow it to come in, or I notice it's happening,
Correct.
I will find the time to release it on my own. And I've said this before, sometimes I will literally just put a movie on that I know is going to trigger it.
Yes.
And then I will let myself for those 2 hours completely just let it out. And then I'm great. I'm good to go back and take care of all my business.
Because you are more conscious and aware of the feeling that you're experiencing. We know, or we learn to go through it, not to
Run from it.
Run from it, exactly, or just put up this wall. Like, it's not easy to take down the wall, but that has to do with trials and tribulations from past traumas, past tribulations.
The buffalo knows the best. When there is a storm, a buffalo runs towards it, because he knows the quickest way through it is through it.
I love it. I'm getting chills all over me. I run straight through it. I always know there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
I didn't before. I would run away from shit all the time, and I would definitely stonewall people and things. And then again, where I'm at my journey is very much welcoming the ability to learn daily, to become more conscious about everything,
Absolutely.
especially my thoughts. And what's helping me is I want to connect the two of you. Do you know who Jennifer Alley is? So she is an inner alignment coach. Okay. And she has, I'll show you the book afterwards. She has I think it's a New York bestseller. What I love about books like she wrote is, where I'm at my journey is this. When I read something like this, it affirms what I'm feeling or thinking or doing on a daily basis now, because I was never like this before. I would have, like every human, however many it is, 6,000 thoughts in a day. I don't know what the actual number is.
Your mind doesn't shut off.
And I would not be aware of any of them. You know what I'm saying? Except for like what I'm doing at that moment. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really aware of all my thoughts. Now I'm so, I guess like the TV's on, basically. Like, I'm so aware of so many things, like not getting involved in drama conversations. When someone else says, like, I almost bite my tongue, and my answers are much shorter now than getting wrapped up in that kind of conversation. And so for anyone who struggles with a negative environment, becoming more conscious of your environment, becoming more conscious of your own thoughts and how you're reacting to things is life-changing. And it takes time.
I'm going to go on what you just said. So my mother, the first year, she used to not do it intentionally, but I would get triggered so horribly and I would react. And it takes me, with anybody else, I never get mad. I mean, I'm never, ever getting mad. I'm always in a good mood. Like, nothing ever will get me mad. But it's just that one thing that triggers you. And I had to learn to not react. And it is not easy. I had to go through those emotions, because a lot of the things that were said were hurtful. They weren't true. I'm sensitive. It hurt my feelings. But each time stuff like that happened, I got stronger. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to react this way, because what's the point? It's negative energy. It's taking away from my light. And I want to be 120% so I can receive the opportunities that I've been preparing for, because I've planted so many seeds, and I teach people how to plant seeds. I don't even get paid extra for that, to be honest. But I just started not reacting, meditating every day, doing my affirmations every day, just learning to enjoy solitude. I was never a fan.
I've always been okay with being in solitude, but I think that stems from my wounds as a younger person.
Exactly.
Because I was never at a school for more than 2 years. And we'll get into that some other day, but changing schools all the time, new kid, all that sort of stuff. So I was always okay with being by myself. But when someone wants to start their journey to become physically and mentally healthy, you must take time to look inside.
Oh,
and
100.
The only way you can do that is by putting yourself in an area that is by yourself. Now, you can have solitude in your bedroom.
Right.
You can do it. If you have roommates, you can do that. No, but it's still, it's a step. I practice so many things in a day that might only take 5 minutes or 10 minutes. But once I start seeing the progress, once I start seeing the profit back to me in my physical and mental state being better, which in turn becomes financial happiness as well.
Absolutely.
Then I start trying to find a new practice that I can add to that, so that most of my day is full of doing things that put a smile on my face. I'm a big believer in things that I never thought I would believe in before. And affirmations, as some out there might think, what a silly fucking person, or whatever they might say.
There's a lot.
And that's fine. They can. I'm living a much better life right now. Like, I have never been this happy. Things have never worked out as well as they are right now, because I'm allowing them to, because I'm allowing to change my belief system into something that is working for me.
You just said it, and I don't mean to cut you off. You are changing your belief system. The limiting beliefs. I'm going to resort back to this every time now. I had self-limit. I'm like, I had to reevaluate everything. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, is it me? Is it them? What's going on? I mean, I'm like, let me just figure out what I'm doing wrong. Okay, it must be me. I'm limiting myself from something.
We're going to pause right there because we've run out of time today, but we're going to talk about this on the next episode with
perfect.
you, okay?
Okay.
So we're going to remember that we talked about, like, basically letting go of something from your past.
Correct.
Right? Okay, perfect. Everyone out there, thank you so much for coming back each and every week here on the Life Choices podcast. We'll see you next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Much love, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You are now about
The Journey Life Choices podcast.